Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. It's time to continue on with my brand new money grinds and builds. Of course, since update 1.49 release, we've got brand new physics, so a lot of cars have either been changed or completely become irrelevant. And in terms of, some of the new cars as well, we do have to get through builds for those as well. So we're going for the 430 Scuderia today. Now this is going to be built up to a sort of, GT4, GT3 kind of spec machine, so it basically turns a road car into a race car. So to begin with, let's have a look at the price for this car. Now there's two ways to get your hands on it. The first is brand central. As you can see, it will cost you 380,000 credits. Not the cheapest car, but definitely a very good looking vehicle. In terms of PP, it's 617.08, 502 brake horsepower, 1350 kilograms, and naturally aspirated. However, as mentioned, there is another way to get your hands on this vehicle. The other way to do it is, of course, from the used car dealership. Now, of course, if money is a little bit tighter and you do want to save yourself just a few credits, 366,700 credits will get you this car from the used dealership. As you can see, exactly the same. However, it will have some mileage on it. 23,734 miles on this one, so just be aware of that. May require a bit more maintenance. Big thank you to the livery creator for this video. This is the Daishin Advan Ferrari 430 made by Van Ellen. Of course, this will feature all of the parts that are on the car that I am using during this video. So this is the fastest way to just get the car in Aero exactly to match how I'm using it. However, if you don't want to do that, I am going to be running the wide body modification on this car. Again, it's not the cheapest car in the world to get modifications for. Now, in terms of the wheels, it doesn't really matter what you're running. However, the likes of the widths and the sizes do matter, as they do actually kind of change the PP rating. So we've got the 20-inch rims, we've got the wide width, and of course the wide offset as well. In terms of aero modifications next, if you head to custom parts, we're running a front bumper type A, and then of course in terms of the sides and rear, these are also going to be customized as well. So the side part for this one, once again, is going to be the Type A side. And then in terms of the wing, it's a little bit different. There's not many options here, so we are using a custom wing set. The wing is going to be low and the end plate is going to be Type 7. And that's it for aero modifications. However, in terms of the tuning sheet, of course, this is going to have a lot more to it. So this car does run on the racing hards. However, I will be running the intermediates and heavy wets as well. Fully customizable suspension, body height is 73 front and 90 at the rear. Anti-roll bar next, it's going to be 8 at the front and 7 at the rear. Compression is 35 across for both, expansion is 45 across for both, and natural frequency at the front is 290 and 325 at the rear. Negative camber angle quite low is 1 and 1.5, and toe angle is non-existent on this build. Differential is fully customizable. Then we have the torque setting set to 5, acceleration to 10, and braking to 15. Then we're going to head over to the transmission. I run the fully customizable manual transmission. Now I do set this top speed to 320, and the manual adjustments are as follows. So the final drive is 4.389, sixth is 0.800-344, fifth is going to be 0.942-285. Fourth is 1.39-236, then third is 1.492-180, second is 2.050-131, and first is 3.061-87. Then we're going to move on to the rest of the car. We do run ballast, so this is set at 9 with a positioning of -11. No power restriction on this build. Downforce at the front is also going to be 200, so relatively high. Rear is 400. Now in terms of the rest of the car, there's not too many parts on this. Now in terms of the air cleaner, that is going to be racing. Same with silencer, same with the exhaust manifold. Brake system is a racing slotted, racing pads. Brake controller I do recommend, as I recommend kind of tuning it on the fly. Again, it's going to be down to your personal preference. Then we have the racing clutch and flywheel, engine balance tuning, rate reduction stage 1, and increased body rigidity. Feel free to pause at any moment if you do need to. So next, let's head over to the event difficulty as well as the events themselves. I do recommend running the game on easy. Of course, if we're grinding credits, it's all about just earning the maximum amount of credits as possible. Then this car is of course built for the WTC 700. It will run pretty well at every single event. However, there is some standouts: the Red Bull Ring, Mount Panorama, and of course the 24-hour Le Mans with the money grind method. So of course this is the one that I'm going to show you in this video. So head over into the WTC 700 and let's get to it. Now, in terms of the car itself, this is a part where I explain the build. So my thinking behind this car is to basically turn the road going version into a full-blown GT3/GT4 vehicle. Of course, harking back to the days when this thing was a GT3 machine out on track. So the main reason this build took so long to get out is because it was all about trying to balance every single thing into one single package so that this car can perform well at pretty much every single track in the game. And that's exactly what it does. Whilst it isn't the most reactive, I do find that it will stick and it will be very difficult to break that rear. That is one thing I noticed with the standard road car, is that as soon as you got on the brakes, the rear would kick out and it'd want to try and spin itself around. And it was all about getting rid of that and making it an extremely balanced car that is both quite quick as well as extremely good through those corners. Of course, it is a little bit weighty since we don't have maximum weight reduction on. However, it's a fairly solid overall build. So in terms of the strategy itself, of course you just want to find where you want your brake balance at and turn the engine down to fuel mix 6. Now in terms of the fuel, it really is a little heavy on that side. The maximum you can really get out of it is around about 3 laps, so just bear that in mind that you can't do that extra 4th lap unfortunately, especially at Le Mans. So the best sectors to take advantage of this car is going to be the first sector as well as the final one. Whilst the car does top out around about 175 to 180 mile an hour in fuel mix 6, the main place it's going to be making up time is under braking and through any of the corners. It's ridiculously quick through those sections. Now in terms of taking the lead, you just want to take it at the soonest possible opportunity. At that point you just want to start pulling on the AI and just say goodnight to them. At that point you are then going to start monitoring the weather system. Again, it can be very hit and miss at the likes of Le Mans. Any race really with variable weather can be extremely different from one run to the next. Now the car does change up depending whether it's the wet weather or the dry. In the dry it's super grippy. At times it can get a little more sketchy, especially if you're not running the likes of traction control on the new update in the wet weather. So again, bear that in mind and adjust your brake balance just to kind of ensure that you're covering off any rain and such like that. Now in terms of my strategy, I had a ton of rain come in this race, probably the wettest Le Mans race that I've ever ran. So at the end of lap 2 I dived in as early as possible to ensure that I was getting on the correct tyre. Now I knew there was going to be a very high chance of heavy rain, but for me the intermediates, I'm pretty confident on them. I don't feel the need really to use those heavy wets, as it will probably only stay in those conditions for a matter of seconds at most. So all you need to be doing once you've got the lead is just cover off the weather at any possible opportunity. If you see rain coming in, get yourself in early. There's a lot of times where the AI will just stay out on track and it will cost them their overall pace. They'll end up in the barriers, they'll end up in the gravel, they'll end up banging into the side of each other. So as long as you're covering it off, you should end up with a massive lead over them. Now in terms of my race here, of course I'm going on to the intermediates. I'm going to fill the car to full and that is going to last me for another 3 laps. So at this point I can get to around about the end of lap 5 before I need to think about going back into the pits again. So out we come. We are going to see the Dodge Viper just come past us, but of course he's going to end up caught out with the rain. Now just note there is a glitch currently where the rain on dry tyres and such really isn't that difficult, so it's completely up to you. If you feel confident to stay on the dries, then you can probably do it, and it does seem to affect the AI. They're not as clumsy as they once were, however they will still make mistakes, especially if it gets into that heavy wet condition. Now once again I'm going to pit in at the end of lap 5. At this point the track's starting to dry out, there's a very dry line on the track, so I don't need to worry too much. So again I'm just going to cover that off, get myself on the dry so that at the end of the race I'm not just running around on burnt out intermediates. Once again I'm just going to take some extra fuel just to kill off that bit extra time and hope that I can do the stop and wait method. Unfortunately though, it just wasn't meant to be for this race. I did have to take that 7th lap, as by the time I come across the line, as you see, I still had a couple of minutes remaining, so just not enough of a gap really to ensure that I could absolutely cover off that final AI. So I completed the 7th lap came up across the line. As you can see, the AI just struggling at this point, ended up in the back of the Mustang, spinning it around, and that is it, job done. Obviously, you can still keep the clean race bonus with this race, even with contact. So my fastest lap was on a sort of, you know, semi-dry condition, a 4-minute 18.168 on that final lap. Did a total time of 32 minutes, 0.183, of course completing 1 lap extra than any of the AI. Now in terms of the payout for this one, of course we all know it at this point, 825,000 credits with that clean race bonus, almost impossible to miss out on that as well. And there we have it. I would honestly say that the 430 Scuderia has been one of the more difficult cars to tune, and realistically I wanted to make something that was, you know, a proper sort of race car build for it, where it's not over the top and running at 800 pp and drinking fuel every 2 seconds with, you know, a million turbos strapped to it. I wanted to keep it very grounded in reality, and I do feel like this build produces it. Anyway, let me know what you think. If there's any other builds you want to see, be sure to let me know down in the comments, or feel free to send me your builds in my business emails. This way I can go ahead and test them out, and if they're good enough, I'll make a video on them. Massive thank you to all of my channel members, and a massive thank you to you guys watching at home. Take care guys, peace.